Over the past few decades, there have been a lot of countries that have ran into currency issues. Whether it's Germany during the Weimar Republic era of the 1920s, the Yugoslav dinar of the mid-1990s, the new Mozambique Medico in 2006, or the Zambian kwacha in 2013. All these currencies have destroyed the lives of citizens and has caused lots of pain and suffering. Not only did these currencies lose massive amounts of purchasing power, but wiped out the retirement and savings of all who held them. These type of events happen all the time, and most people hear nothing about them. The reason currencies collapse is because governments and central banks debase their currencies deliberately. So why do governments always debase their currencies? It doesn't make much sense after all. Debasing your currency robs people of their savings and takes away value in their wages. However, the most important reason governments always debase their currency is it allows them to repay their debt cheaply. Governments always want to spend far more than they can raise through taxes, and sooner or later, these debts must be paid off. Throughout recorded history, there have been 5 primary ways that governments have chosen to pay down their debts, and none of them are pretty for me and you. Number 1, reducing the quantity of a commodity. For commodity money such as gold and silver, debasing occurred by reducing the quantity of gold or silver in the coin. Coin clipping was one of the ways the Roman emperors would debase the nation's money. This was done by trimming some of the precious metal off the edges of the coin for resale somewhere else while leaving the face value of the coinage unchanged. Coin clipping has occurred many times since the time of the Romans, both publicly and privately by con artists. To combat these issues, mints milled the edge of gold and silver coins to make sure the coin clipping could be easily detected. Another way of debasing the commodity money was by lowering the quantity of gold and silver in coins. During the ancient Roman time period and onward, the best way of debasing was by lowering the amount of gold or silver in coins issued by the monarchy. For example, the Roman government gradually altered both the size and silver content of the Roman coin called the denarius without changing its denomination. Originally, the silver coin was almost pure silver, weighing about 4.5 grams. Over time, it was reduced to just 2% silver. It was eventually replaced by the argenteus. In recent U.S. history, the dimes, quarters, and half dollars from 1964 and before were coined with 90% silver, making them commodity money. From 1965 forward, these coins changed to clad coins. This makes the coins a fiat money and are only worth something because the government has decreed it. Number 2, eliminating commodity backing. By eliminating commodity backing of a paper currency, the only backing is by government decree. For example, silver certificate legislation in the U.S. was abolished by Congressional Act of June 4, 1963, and all redemption in silver was halted by June 24, 1968. Also in 1971, President Richard M. Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard. From that day forward, the United States has been on a complete fiat currency. A fiat currency is not backed by a commodity, it's only backed by the government decreeing paper currency as money. Now this has lasted for over 40 plus years. Number 3, deficit spending. Fiat currency is debased when governments print excessive amounts of money. The Austrian Institute of Economics believes that inflation occurs when the supply of money outpaces demand for money. In other words, the greater the money supply, the greater the potential inflation pressures. And this is what's happening now. Number 4, fractional reserve lending. By creating money out of thin air, banks lend out much more money than they have in the bank. This can be a factor of 10 to 1 or more. Consequently, only a fraction of what the bank has lent out must be held in reserves. The theory is that very few people will take out their monies at any given time. The fear that the government has is when there is a run on the banks and everyone wants their money at once. This increase the money supply is very significant. Number 5, currency redenomination. This occurs when a new unit of currency replaces an old unit. In other words, altering the face value of a currency without changing its foreign exchange rate is a redenomination. Hyperinflation is frequently the cause of redenomination. A new unit replaces a fixed number of old units. These numbers can be as high as 10, 100, 1,000 or more of the old units for one new unit. Redenominations that are high enough render money worthless. This has occurred many times throughout history, and most recently in Venezuela when President Maduro removed the legal tender status of the 100 Bolivar note overnight. Shortly thereafter, the government issued 6 new high denomination notes, which will inevitably reach their intrinsic value of 0 very soon. Throughout history, these have been the 5 ways governments and central banks have debased their national currencies. The only currency so far that has yet to experience a collapse is the Federal Reserve note. And if you're a fan of this channel, then you know that this currency is no different than others. Since all governments create more debt than they can repay, that leaves us with just 2 options for the U.S. government: war and outright debasement because of inflation. My question to you is, which one do you think is going to come first?